Okay, well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us. Bonjour tout le monde. Merci d'être venu. I'm Peter Miller. I'm an associate professor and chair of classics at the University of Winnipeg, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to one of our keynote performances today, a performance of music by Bettina Joy de Guzman, excuse me. I'll give a brief introduction and then I'm going to turn it over to Bettina, who will perform, I believe it's 8 songs for us. And she'll provide an introduction to the songs. And then at the end of our performance, we'll have the opportunity to ask her some questions. And we have a solid 56 minutes or so before the next panel starts, but we can go a bit over if necessary. So Bettina Joy de Guzman est une multi-instrumentiste et historienne qui reconstruit et interprète de la musique grecque et latine ancienne. She has been invited to lecture, sing authentic ancient poetry, and play historical instruments in various universities and museums internationally. These include virtual performances for Harvard University's Center for Hellenic Studies and live performance for the National Archaeological Museum in Athens. Ses œuvres ont été présélectionnées pour la nomination au Grammy et incluent dans de nombreuses compilations et autres médias. As president of the California Classical Association South, she organizes panels twice per year. She's co-creator and host of Cosmo TV History channel Ancient Greek Culture Now, highly recommended, which aired January 2021 in Greece. She's a teacher and just a phenomenal, going off my script, a phenomenal outreach and sort of just a person who's such a wonderful person to know if you're interested in ancient Greek music, ancient Greek art, and its living reception today. So it's a real great pleasure to have her join us here virtually. And I'll turn it over to you now, Bettina. Thanks very much.
Thank you for that kind and generous introduction, Peter. I'm so excited and just thrilled to be here. So I'll just start with some introduction. In the ancient Mediterranean world, musicians sang and played instruments during formal and informal events. So we know that ancient songs often celebrated deeds of glorious kings, gods, and heroes. But what did it sound like? We use replica instruments, the box wooden lyre, which I'll refer to as either this Megiddo lyre, which is also an ancient Egyptian lyre. And in fact, I'll be starting with an ancient Egyptian song in celebration of the ancient Mediterranean world, because everything that was ancient Greek was influenced by other cultures, and we need to know that, and we need to spread the word. So it's either this Megiddo lyre or just ancient Egyptian lyre replica here, or the formix, which is the more rounded one. And then there's the bowl lyre, originally fashioned of tortoiseshell, sheep gut strings and crossbars, perhaps of horns. The one that I will be playing for you all is the Barbatos model, the one with the long strings. And it is a replica one. I do have one that is tortoiseshell, but this one is wood. Okay, so I will be demonstrating various modes, meters, and pitches, and try to match the instrument with known depictions or textual references to the song. And you can ask me about that later. Sometimes I follow the rules, sometimes I break them in favor of the imagery and meaning of the text. So what you'll be hearing is sometimes I will mute myself if I'm tuning, because these instruments, being replica instruments, I didn't want them upgraded to more modern standards. The instrument makers are fabulous. The luthieros in Thessaloniki, they're the Koumatsis family. They're wonderful, beautiful family. And they have verified that I have the largest collection of their lyres. And I have something like 10 different ones. So, lyres and harps, I should say. And later you can ask me the difference between a harp and a lyre. I have, several that I can show you afterwards, and just sort of show it. And so sometimes I will be tuning, because it's the way that these pegs are made and everything, as I said, they're done the traditional way, as traditional as they could make it, with pegs and everything, and gut strings. And so they will sometimes slip, and so sometimes I will just meet myself and retune. So don't be worried. I'm still here. Okay. All right. Give me a moment. This first song that I will be playing is a passage from the Great Hymn to the Aten, which is the longest of a number of hymn poems written to the sun disk deity Aten. Composed in the middle of the 14th century BC, it is varyingly attributed to the 18th dynasty pharaoh Akhenaten or his courtiers. Now, there's a very famous painting in the 1920s titled Female Musicians, one of whom has a lyre that this was copied from at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. It was a replica of a New Kingdom 18th dynasty wall painting from Upper Egypt. So the tomb painting and the Great Hymn to the Aten were the same dynasty. And this is what it would probably have sounded like. We have no ancient Egyptian notations, which is unfortunate. And sadly enough, we don't even have descriptions of how they played it. So we can only guess from the picture, from the depictions, and we'll take our best guess. And the way I have, well, you can ask me about later how I reconstruct the music then. All right. This ancient lyre depiction was a bit later than the one at the sarcophagus of Agia Triada in Archaeological Museum of Heraklion, just so you can get sort of a comparative idea, which is in Greece, which was later than the actual artifact of the Queen's Lyre from Ur, southern Iraq, 2600 to 2400 BC. It doesn't mean that one came before the other. We're just talking about what are the depictions we are left with, and what are the actual relics that we are left with. And who knows, these things can change later, our ideas of which came first. Okay, let me just retune and I will be playing it in a moment. Great Hymn of the Aten. The translation I have from Tamara El Suda is, you rise beautifully or perfect in the horizon of the sky, living Aten who started life. When you have risen in the horizon, you fill the whole earth with your beauty. You are fine, great, sparkling, high up above the whole earth. Your rays bind the lands as far as, or maybe to the extent of all that you have made. Since you are Ra, you reach as far as them, and you hold them back for your son that you love. Although you are alone or far, your rays are on the earth. I will now switch instruments. I'm going to the timpanon or the frame drum. I'll be back shortly. So a brief history of what I'm about to play for you. This is from Sophocles' Antigone, the fifth Stasimon, and that's where the chorus is invoking Bacchus, the god of Bacchic Thebes, and his frantic and raving bacchantes who dance through the night. It sets up the climax of the play, where emotions overpour and the laws of gods overpower reason and man's laws. Now, the music, the melody itself came from Nikos Xantoulis, who is the artistic consultant of National Greek Opera. And he had actually written a whole album for me to sing while he played the lyre. And this is one of the songs. But I fell so in love with it that I asked him, can I adapt it for the frame drum? And can I put in ancient Greek? Because he had actually written it in English. To reach a wider audience, I think he was thinking. And the translation was by Ruth Fainlight and Robert Littman. And so he said, sure, it's yours. You can do what you will with it. I wrote it for you. So what do you think? I trust you. And so what I did was I interwove the ancient Greek along with the English, and kept the rhythms that he put in there. So we have an idea, because he stayed with the Greek lyric rhythms, which are very complex and quite enjoyable, I think. So here it is. Give me a moment. Sophocles' Antigone, fifth Stasimon. Olion mekat mea sedang menimpas, kai Dios beri mata llenos. You have many names, you who were the glorious child of Cadmus' daughter and loud thundering Zeus, you who keep watch in far-famed Italy, who in the bosomy hills of Demeter's Eleusis are worshipped by many. O Bacchus, god of the mother city of Bacchic I will now be switching again instruments to the barbitos or the barbiton or barbitos. And um, give me a moment. And Peter, just so you know, I switched up the program a little bit. I'm doing the sappho first. Okay, I shall be back. The moon and the Pleiades have set. It is midnight and the time is passing, but I sleep alone. The poem is only 4 lines, which some argue is a fragment of a larger poem, while others argue it is complete. Written in Hegesichorian meter, which is ba-bum, ba-ba-bum, ba-bum, bum, 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 ba-ba-bum, ba-bum, bum. And so it's this rather a complex meter, and I will clearly exaggerate the long beats and so on, just to get the mood, I think, of midnight and that moment. Now, question: is it about the moon goddess Selene yearning for her lover Endymion, or is it about someone sleeping alone, enjoying the moonlight? The poem is usually attributed to Sappho, the Greek poet from Lesbos, one of the greatest lyric poets from around 630 to 570 BC. And often Sappho is depicted playing the barbitas here, which has longer strings and a lower pitch than the regular Kelis. So here it is. Sappho fragment 168b. I'll be retuning my instrument, same instrument though. Give me a moment. The Metamorphoses is was written around 880 by Ovid, a Latin narrative poem considered by many to be his greatest work. And the poem chronicles the history of the world from its creation to the deification of Julius Caesar within a loose mythico-historical framework. I chose this passage, the beginning, for the content, before the ocean and the lands appeared, before the sky had overspread them all. Now that's 1.5, but I'll explain what I'm doing here. Before the ocean and the lands appeared, before the sky had overspread them all, the face of nature in the vast expanse was nothing but chaos, uniformly wasted. It was a rude and undeveloped mass. Nothing was made except a ponderous weight, and all discordant seeds were confused and congested in a shapeless heap. But a god.
It's kind of, it got clumped in one spot.
Okay, all right. But a god or kindly nature ended strife, and he cut the land from skies, the sea from land, the heavens ethereal from the material air. Okay, and so I had skipped around 1.5 to around 1.9, and then I skipped to 1.21 to 23 to get that part. And then I go back to the beginning to 1.1. I want to speak about bodies changed into new forms. And I think these days that is an important theme. You gods, since you are the ones who after these and all other things inspire my attempt and spin out a continuous thread of words from the world's first origins to my own time. All right, so here we go. Now, for this song, it is very stylized. And I did that on purpose to sort of echo, I think, the world that Rome had by the time we're talking there, 8 AD, where they have the instruments and the sounds of different parts of the world by then, and they can pick and select. And also each bard, if you will, could go and take these songs and play them anywhere. Now, we're not even sure that they sang this song necessarily, except that we think it was. And I will say, you know, after reading so many different oral tradition books and so on, you know, there's a whole argument that these were really these type of songs, these types of lyrics were written with the idea that people will sing them. And so I wanted to give the breadth and space. I was looking for the breadth and space, and I thought that the barbitos gave me that freedom. Thank you. Now I'll be moving on to another instrument soon. Back with the Forminx. So this here is another box lyre type. And the way that luthiers had made us, they made it so that I could actually distort sound a bit if I wanted to. I won't be doing that, but it's sort of fun to work with. All right, this song is the oldest complete piece of written, concise musical notations with lyrics found so far in history. The epitaph of Sikilos, written around 1st or 2nd century CE, and it bore the epitaph, "I am a stone icon. Sikilos placed me here, a mark of immortal remembrance throughout time." The English poet translation is by my mentor Armand Dangour. "While you live, shine bright. Don't let anything you be night. We don't have life for long, my friend. To all our plans, time decrease and end." Okay, now what I did is I also translated, but into Tagalog. And I thought to myself, and the reason why is I thought to myself one day, I mean, why not? Is there any reason not to? Well, no, because it was originally written in ancient Greek. So it can actually be translated into any other language. And it was meaningful to me in a very different way once I started the translation process. And I really do think that during that time, you know, that they were doing this, and it wasn't necessarily going to stay in ancient Greek. So here we go. Do we know what context it was written in? Do we know a lot of things about it? No, we don't. You can ask me about that later. But here, I'll go sing it now. I just wanted to add that while older music with notation exists, people always bring up the Hurrian songs, for instance, all of it is in fragments. We have 60 documents of ancient Greek music, but they're in fragments. And what's special about the epitaph of Sikilos is that the Sikilos epitaph is the oldest complete intact lyrics with musical notation. Okay, I'm going to switch keys, and so I'll be tuning now. Virgil, one of Rome's greatest poets, lived in the Augustan age. He wrote 3 of the most famous poems in Latin literature, the Eclogues, the Georgics, and the Aeneid. Arms and a man, I sing. So begins the epic of Virgil's Aeneid about the founding of the Roman people. This last song I'll be playing, so I'm actually playing 7 songs, is from the Iliad 19 and 23. And it's called Achilles, Briseis, and Patroclus. I'll be switching keys, by the way, but I just wanted to introduce the song a little bit. And it's very special to me because a friend and brilliant author, Madeline Miller, had expressly asked for me to make a song for an event that was aired just very recently for WNYC, Get Lit, with all of it. And it was, it's for the Song of Achilles. And the way she had, she really did her research. She did 10 years of research for this, and it shows because you're really embodied in the narrator, which is Patroclus, and she had chosen Patroclus as the narrator, and through his eyes we could see the war, we could see Achilles shining, we could see Briseis suffering, we could see all this, and so the book that she wrote centers around Patroclus and Achilles, and so I had to find the passages that had Achilles, Patroclus, and Briseis all in there. And so I took parts from 19 and 23 and still somehow made it dactylic hexameter, which was extremely challenging. Keep the narrative going, keep their voices equal to each other, find things that sort of were, had assonance and rhyme, And then I wanted the overall vision that this is the funeral scenes, and I wanted to find a line where Achilles says Patroclus' name in the beginning, and I wanted it to end with Patroclus saying Achilles' name in there, and yet have that extremely amazing passage of Briseis wailing for Patroclus. Now, to have all that in a song, you ended up chopping up a lot. So this was a 4-minute version of that. It was actually initially longer, and maybe I'll record a longer version of it at some point and put that back in there. But the one that I've been practicing is a 4-minute version, which you will hear today. I need to retune. I'll be back. Achilles, Briseis, and Patroclus from the Iliad, book 19 and 23. that's it. That's my 7 songs. I hope you enjoyed it. I am so ready for questions.
Thanks so much, Bettina. That was wonderful. Yeah, sort of mind-blowingly wonderful. So maybe I'll just give you a few moments to recover, and I'm sure our audience needs a few moments to shift from listening to such sort of, I don't know, music that was hypnotizing in its beauty and depth before turning to pepper you with tons of questions with our academic minds. So we need a moment to switch. But I will, yeah, invite people to think about questions. And I'd like to start by asking if there's maybe a graduate student or undergraduate student who wants to get us started off with questions. You can either raise your hand, which I think I'll be able to see. You can raise your hand, or you can put it into the chat if you'd like, and I can read it aloud. And I should have also thanked at the beginning a few people. I was too excited to get us started. But I will thank the Classical Association of Canada's Executive and Council for supporting our idea to invite Bettina here as a keynote performer. And I'll thank everyone else who's been involved with the conference organization and organizing her performance. But now I do see a hand, so I will be quiet and invite Maureen Babb to start us off with a question.
Hi, I wanted to start by saying that was beautiful. Thank you so much. And it was very inspiring. I've actually just started playing lyre myself, so my question is going to be extremely self-serving. But is the sheet music for these songs, is it available anywhere?
I am actually working on making the sheet music available sometime by the end of summer. I've actually gotten requests, and I am so overjoyed that people want this music. So thank you. Thank you. That makes me so very happy, Maureen, to hear you interested in playing some of this. And I actually am very sort of, I guess, old-fashioned that I write them all by hand. I have the finale I want to say app, but okay. And it's been sitting on my computer, but I just haven't gotten around to doing it that way. So everything's been handwritten, so I need to kind of, transfer it over.
Okay, well, I've just followed you on Twitter, so I'll keep my eye out for that. Thank you very much. Again, that was wonderful.
Thank you.
And for those of you on Twitter, Bettina's handle is @AncientLyric, and it's a very great Twitter account to follow for her content and for other things that she's sharing and retweeting. So I see another question now from Natalie Swain.
Hi. Yeah, I hope you can hear me. Sorry, I'm just on my phone. First of all, thank you, Bettina. I mean, I just have to reiterate what everybody is saying. That was absolutely gorgeous. My question is about the ancient music we still have and how ancient musical notation compares to what we use in the modern world, and how you translate, sorry, that was my phone going off, sorry, and how we translate one to another.
Okay, excellent question. And this is where I kind of wish that I had my PowerPoint up so I could show you. Gosh, I don't have it up. Okay, but I will say briefly, if there's any way you can check out from the library documents of ancient Greek music by Pullman and West, do it. But also, if you go to Wikipedia and look up Epitaph of Sikilos, they have these wonderful pictures of the actual stone cylinder, and it's got the music notations, and it's very different from our music notations now. And in fact, there were no fixed notes. So the experts who had been working on this for so long, and I'm so grateful to them to transliterate music for me. It's, they worked so hard, but they could only come up with the relative tonality. So in other words, they take something and it looks like they figured out that certain ones are probably the main tone, the main tonos, the main key, we would say the main key, because it keeps coming back to around that particular key. And so and then they get an idea what's the lowest note and what's the highest note. And then they sort of figured out exactly what they think this music was. That's really how it began after looking at all these many documents. So each time, I look at this little squiggle thing that I've learned to read as, oh yes, I see that's the main note that I go back to. Okay, all right, and and then what's the fifth is this. Okay, that's that other notation. And then when my brain can't deal, I just go, okay, yeah, I'm going to open up Documents of Ancient Greek Music by Pullman and West. I'm sure they have this transliterated for me. Oh, yep, they do. Wonderful. And but Armand Dangour has reminded me that there's no right or wrong key, because let's say the Epitaph of Sikilos was written, I was singing it in the key of D major, but you could actually translate it transliterate it to another key, and it would be fine, because it's really about relative pitch rather than fixed notes. Yeah.
That's fascinating. Thank you. So I did, just as you're speaking, Wikipedia, the Psycholos epitaph, and yeah, it looks amazingly different than what I would have imagined. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
And Kat Furtado.
Yeah. Hi, Bettina. Thank you for that. That was wonderful, as everyone has been saying. I definitely agree. I was really impressed too with like how much work you put into like the Achilles and Patroclus one. But that's actually, I have a silly question, which is, and admittedly my eyes were closed for some of this, but I think you were always playing with your fingers. Have you ever used like a plectrum?
Yes, absolutely. And this is where I get up and go to my, you can see over there in the back over here, there's boxes of things and stuff and whatever. Yes, let me bring it out. Okay, I'll be right back. Let me bring out one of my plectrums. Okay. Actually, here are two of my I guess anyway, plectron is each one, right? And then so plectra. And yeah, for instance, when I'm doing all right, I'm using the methodology that Nikos Xanthoulis had written about in his book. Actually, I edited his book called The Ancient Greek Lyre Methodology. And he always plays with a plectrum, and he will do the method where you're blocking. And Stefan Hackl does the same thing when he plays. He does the method of blocking. And you can also do the harmonics that way. Okay. And now the reason I don't do this for Zoom is because the microphone gets very confused, because as you can hear with a plectrum, it's loud, and it's perfect for live, right? And then I would turn down the microphone, because that strumming is loud and wonderful, and you can imagine that with a plectrum it fills a king's hall. You're strumming like that, and you're singing not in a covered voice like I was doing, but like sometimes I sing uncovered. When I'm wailing and stuff, I sing uncovered, and then sometimes I cover my voice. But loud wailing, sort of uncovered voice with that plectrum, it's marvelous. So yes, I have my plectrum. Good question. Yeah. And it's often mistranslated, I think, in the 19th century as like key. And this is fascinating. It's like, it's not a key, it's a plectrum. And in fact, there is such a thing as, I'm going off on a tangent here, but in case anybody's asking, there is such a thing as a tuning key. And recently, I'd been talking to anonymous, I'm going to say it wrong, coin expert, okay? Looking at these various depictions of what is a tuning key, and as compared to a peg, and what's a collapse and all that. And we had this wonderful discussion on Twitter. If you follow me, you'll find it. Professor Yarrow and I were talking about that. So, okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can I ask another one? Or other hands up? Okay. Okay, let me try this again. If I can, yeah. Do you do any wind instruments?
Yes, I do. Okay, I'm going to go grab some. I shall be right back.
Yay, thank you.
have this amazingly talented friend in Sicily. He's a musicologist, and he lives at the foot of Mount Etna, which is like always erupting, and I'm always worried about him. But he made this from his backyard. So he's got a backyard, and he only can cut the canes during springtime, you know. And this has a very nice mellow sound. So this is basically it's a traditional recorder, and they've been doing this for hundreds and hundreds of years, and who knows, probably 1,000 years in Magna Graecia area. And so it's pretty much, you know, unchanged. And people always ask, what about the double aulos? Yes, I do play that, and play is sort of a, you know, a word. Let's be flexible with the word. I try really hard. This is very difficult to play. So you could see here that it's actually got these little things that you have to lift up so you can you know, you breathe through. You have to cover it completely with your mouth, and then you look like a blowfish when you're doing it, and you put a lot of effort into it. And one sound is a drone, and then one is the oh, they got mixed up. Sorry, I'm not left-handed. Okay, there you go. And so one sound is the drone, and the other is the one that where you can actually make different tunes. And I'm still working on being good. When I'm good enough with it, then I'll actually be doing it, you know, for live performances. But I've recorded with it because, like, you know, in a recording you can make mistakes and just sort of like redub yourself. I'm getting a lot more decent with this, but what I do find is, again, the microphone gets confused between the lyre and the wind instrument sound because this is louder. And what's really cool about this this wind instrument, it's a cane actually, and this is reed. So it's very different from, let's say, if it's bone or wood. Once you have something that's bone or wood, it's much more stable. This is unstable, and I'm pretty sure you guys can guess that. Y'all can guess that I sort of delight in the instability of traditional instruments, because I'm like, this is what they had, you know. This is what the shepherd had. This is what, you know, the local people had. And if they wanted something made of bone or wood, that was super expensive, and you know, they could get it. It's a professional instrument that way, and it's much more stable. But you know, but you get to play with these things, and you find that when you cover it, and you can cover it however you want, you know, with this fleshy part or this one, but it's so sensitive to pitch and tone, so that if I'm just a little bit not covering or half covering it, it switches to semitones and quarter tones. And in ancient Greek music, it's very obvious that they had such a thing as quarter tones as well. I mean, semitones definitely, but quarter tones as well. So it's a much more, you know, it's a different sound. There's a lot more slidey sound to it. Much more what we consider, I guess, Eastern sounds. And so I actually had my friend Roberto Catalano make me a larger version of this, so I had more to play with. Although really awesome double aulos players can just play with these and make all sorts of different sounds. So yes, I have so many, and I play percussions. If you're asking about that, I as a Polynesian dancer, we were trained to play with different percussions, wood, sticks, things, you know, big log basically that you beat on, and then drums with normal skin, and big ones, little ones. And then I also did Mid-Eastern dance with Angelica Nemes, and with that, she also liked to train everybody with percussions. And so I have all sorts of percussions behind me as well. I think I have something like 15 different ones. And I think my collection of instruments is something like 30, like just straight instruments from around the world that I play with and I have performed with.
Awesome. I'm so jealous, but thank you so much.
You're welcome.
If other people are thinking of questions, Bettina, there was someone who had asked me in the chat earlier about whether or not they could access or buy the Ancient Greek Culture Now episodes, or whether those are available.
Oh, okay. So They're working on, I had promised originally that they'll be available 2 weeks after being aired in Greece, but then lots of red tape was happening between it being aired there, because I think that they were planning on re-airing it, and therefore they didn't want that sort of competition of it being here. So it's taking a little longer for it to be here, available to my YouTube. If it became available, the soonest it would be on is through Pan Metron, which is the studio that actually had put it together with me. Christos Sayas is the director that I work with. He's absolutely fabulous, and he's won many, he's an award-winning short documentary director, and he was saying he's still working on getting the rights to it, and once it's on his YouTube, he will give me the rights to have it on mine, so we can air those episodes. So we only had 5 episodes, and then the plague happened, and I had to get out of Greece, and and we had to stop filming in Greece, and I was so very sad. And so when I'm able to film again, hopefully this November or maybe latest May, then we will have pre-production, and then we'll have it, and we'll be sure that we have the first season before we do the second season out. So thank you for asking about that. It was really cool, interviewing these amazing people.
Great, and and someone is putting in the chat, yes, absolutely. Bettina's website is bettinajoydeguzman.com, and you can purchase her music there as a CD. I have her CD somewhere in my office here. So please support her there. Are there other questions? Oh, I see. Josh Campbell.
Just had a question about, I guess, like the meter and the measure of the music. Was there like a very similar like focus around kind of phrasing being in this kind of 4 measure, like kind of blocks like you see in kind of modern Western music, or was it just like, I guess, different?
This is a great question. So meter is like this big rabbit hole you go into, and so first thing is I go based on the text, and then that most commentary start from there as well, and then they go into this other thing. So what many historians have decided is that, for instance, in drama, and let's go into, for instance, Sophocles' Antigone, because I know that pretty well. You had all sorts of what's called lyric meter, and lyric is a very flexible word. So per line, it changes how many, and as far as like making it into what we would call measures, they didn't think in that way. They thought in terms of this is a long, short, short, long, based on the words themselves and based on the accents. But then there are definitely moments when there's only one way to read it. It's like, oh, that's completely anapestic. I mean, there's no other way to say that. And so that can easily be translated onto our modern measures. And same with dactylic hexameter, except the way that the dactylic hexameter works, and it keeps going on and on and on sometimes, and you don't get a breath, you start wondering, they had to breathe at some point, right? Oh, okay, there's a breathing place there, I think. I mean, that seems to be the end of that thought. So did they then just make it in general, 4/4? Like they sang the 6/4, but then did they sort of like add an extra couple of beats there to make it more 8/4-ish or 8/8 or 4/4, so that each time they can breathe a bit. So you notice with the metamorphoses, oh my goodness, I did a lot of breathing space there, didn't I? But for the Achilles, Briseis, and Patroclus, and like Haire Moyo Patroclikain Aidao do Moisin. Yes, I did breathe on that one. But that's also because I did it in bits, right? So, but for, let me think, for, yeah, for Virgil's Aeneid, I don't think I did any breathing spaces. So it was straight 6 beats. So Arma virum quacano troia qui primus laboris Italiam fatto prof Guzman quavenit litera multi. I just kind of kept going. And then when it let me breathe, I'm all, okay, instrumental part here, So great question. All based on, I guess the short answer is it's based on the text.
Is there maybe one more question before we let Bettina go?
If y'all are on Twitter or Instagram, I'm really good about answering stuff. I never sleep. I have a full-time job teaching high school Latin and world history, and I have a 14-year-old child. And then, among all that, I also, put together panels stuff, and I do interviews, and I make music, and I just never sleep. So I'm there on Twitter. You can ask me questions. I'm usually I'm friendly. I'm there.
Bettina is very friendly on Twitter. I know, because that's how I got to know her. So, oh, I think we do have a final question then from Lana.
Hi, thank you so much. It was so beautiful. Like Kat, I was sort of mesmerized by the music and sitting listening with my eyes closed. So I just had a question that's a little bit out of left field, but I was wondering if you've done any forays in terms of research, in terms of musical accompaniment for military expeditions, such as the hoplite infantry, or for example, the possibility of using it for the rowers on triremes.
Sounds wonderful. So the closest I came to that was doing this Odysseus in Ithaca thing, which I'd done as background music for Center for Hellenic Studies when they were doing a Reading Greek Tragedy online. And I knew during that war, to get that war thing going, it's not going to be a lyre. So I had actually used this, which is very strong and pierces through everything. I used the also this really cool instrument. It's a Brazilian instrument, and it sounds like a twangy, it sounds like a twang, to get that sort of bow feeling. And I used drums, and and I used clapping, to get the feeling of this is flesh that's hitting. And so I give it a lot of thought all the time, how to try to embody the music within. And then I'm trying to think, yeah, so that was that one. And then I also did, I took Tutankhamun's trumpets, which you can find on YouTube. It was amazing, when Tutankhamun's trumpets were found. There were 2 of them. There was a trumpeter who'd played it and then immediately broke the silver one. It fell and it's gone forever. But even though he didn't know what kind of melody the ancient Egyptians played, at least you get the sound of the trumpet. So I took that and I mixed it in with drums, and I did a short military sort of, here we go, we are going to war thing. So I have been, starting to imagine such things, because I think in terms of games and comics, and I'm thinking, oh yeah, that would sound really cool, during this scene. And also I'm heavily influenced by Xena Warrior Princess scene, and I'm always thinking I want to write that sort of scene music, So I hope that answers it. And I give very left field answers too, but I hope that sort of answered it. Did it kind of?
It did. Thank you so much. And thanks again for such an amazing performance.
Thank you. Thank you for your generosity and kindness, everybody.
Well, if there are no other questions, then I might just thank again the Classical Association of Canada's Council and Executive for supporting Bettina's performance today, the organizing committee for the CAC virtual conference, especially Christiane, who's been a tireless organizer this week, and especially in terms of ensuring the audio capabilities of this performance. And then, of course, I'll thank our keynote performer, Bettina Joy de Guzman, for taking time out of her extremely busy day to provide, as people have said, and I've said as well, a kind of hypnotizing, amazing, transformative performance that pulled us out of Zoom and out of remote teaching and learning in conference mode and brought us a piece of antiquity to this strangely postmodern world that we live in. So I'll say thank you very much. The recording for this performance will be online soon, so you'll be able to revisit it. Bettina's website is bettinajoydeguzman.com. Her Twitter handle is @ancientlyric, and I encourage you to follow her on Twitter if you're on Twitter, and visit her website to gain access to YouTube performances and keep track of, as she said, the kind of amazing array of activities that she is involved with. So with that, I'll say thank you very much, and I hope everyone enjoys the remainder of the conference today and tomorrow. Thank you again.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Hey, Chelsea.
If you can stay on for a minute, we can check.